Live on digital media from the vast and spacious VPod TV studios in beautiful Oak Brook, Illinois, just steps from Butler National Golf Course, where men are men and women don't exist. It's the Weekly Wrap with your host, broadcasting legend Bruce Wolf, and his trusty sidekick, former Liberty Magazine editor, Breitbart contributor Tim Slagle, and today's special guest, broadcasting legend in her own right, and afternoon host on WCPT 820 in Chicago, Joan Esposito. And now, without further ado, Bruce Wolf.
Hello again, everybody, or hello for the first time. I got to tell you, this set, Tim, it's better than the set that we had on Barely Today, which was the show that I did on Channel 5. You know, they have the Today Show, and then before that they have Early Today, the local show. And so we had the first 4:30 in the morning show. It was called Barely Today. I kid you not. And, I mean, the cardboard set, I was hoping that it would fall on me so that I could file a workers' comp action so I could get paid more money than I did at Channel 5. But, yeah. So, I mean, this is state of the art.
Looks like every comedy club stage I played in the 90s.
Yeah. So you are a stand-up comedian,
That's what
which is unbelievable because that terrifies me, the very idea of standing up.
Some people say it's worse.
Jokes.
Some people say it's worse than skydiving for them. That they would rather jump out of a plane,
right,
than
without a parachute. And the thing is I cannot be. See, I always feel that I've been funny in like. You're funny when you're belching in a church. I was a funny sportscaster. Well, yeah, what does it take? It's a low bar. So I'm, funny for certain situations. But when you're standing there and people are paying like upwards of, I remember back at the Castaways in Miami Beach in '66, like $1.50 a drink. And it's you got to be funny, or they start heckling you.
It's it's a different thing. The difference between comedy and theater, somebody tells me, is when you get silence from the theater audience, it means you've done something really good. When you're a comic, it means you're in trouble.
Hey, this is a political show, so let's dovetail with that. I believe that President Trump should have pardoned Louis C.K. And he hasn't come back. And I loved his show, and it was all about stand-up. I figured that's probably a busman's holiday for you, though. You probably didn't watch it.
Watching about stand-up, yeah. It was a little too real, and that depressed me.
Yeah.
It's like, when he...
That's why Orange is the New Black is too real for me, because I was a lesbian in a prison. And I wasn't one of the attractive ones.
Is Orange is the New Black? Is that still on TV?
It may as well be, because my wife and I just started watching it. It's 7 seasons, okay? And it jumped the shark in season 3.
Yeah.
And we still are watching it. And just to turn it political right now, there's a point where there's very dykey lesbian, as opposed to the...
Wait, there's lesbians in this?
Oh, yeah, man. Anyway, she's trying to explain to a woman who's had 6 abortions. Hey, we hit abortion 4 minutes into it. I mean, this is controversial. She's trying to explain to this woman who had 6 abortions and was planting crosses with the names of their children that would have been in a garden, how it's much better off that their kids weren't born because they would have become criminals. And she tries to explain this book called Freakonomics that came out about 20 years ago. Have you ever heard of Freakonomics?
Yeah.
Okay, so Freakonomics was this University of Chicago guy. They came up with this idea that they showed that the crime rate dropped like about 18 years after Roe versus Wade, which would show that because those people weren't born, thank God they weren't born, the crime rate dropped. Now, there's a lot of problems. See, I wanted, the Tim Scott rebuttal time for on Orange is the New Black. Say, hey, wait a minute here. There's a lot of things wrong with Freakonomics. For one thing, the crime rate actually went down among the older cohort of people, not among people who would have been about like Roe versus Wade age. There were other things too, but you don't get to have a disclaimer. Or you don't get to argue with it.
But the thing is, if your mom's in prison, there's a pretty good chance you're going to be a criminal. So Freakonomics aside, she might have had a point.
Yeah. Well, no. There was mothers and daughters in prison. Oh, it's a great show. Yeah. And they just showed just the right amount of nudity. I
made it through about 2 seasons.
Oh, you did?
It was amazing to me that you could make a boring series about women in prison.
Oh, you were bored by it.
About season 2.
Really?
About season 2, I got.
Yeah.
Really,
See, I mean,
really.
maybe it's because my wife and I, because of COVID, I think we use COVID as an excuse. We weren't going to do anything anyway. I forget all the series. We rewatched Breaking Bad. And that was feels like it's 10 years ago that we rewatched it, but it was just during all this COVID. We watched Peaky Blinders, which I've forgotten all these series, but right now we're in Orange is the New Black, and I really feel like I'm wasting my time with it, but we can't stop watching it. Hey, so I'd be remiss because today, and I know this is supposed to be timeless, but today is the 10th anniversary of what? Do you know?
No clue.
Osama bin Laden killed.
Oh, wow.
And you know who was against that mission? Joe Biden. I mean, the president of the United States. I mean, so the question then, which I really wanted to devote this entire segment to, but we're almost out of time here, is Joe Biden a douche? And agree or disagree?
I don't know anymore. I don't know what he is. He reminds me now of like when you used to rent a DVD that would have a spot of jelly on it. And you'd stick it in the player and everything could go fine for about 5 minutes, and all of a sudden it just started going, I got hairy legs.
Well, it's a compliment to compare him to a DVD, though. I would say it's like a 78 RPM record on a gramophone. Joe Biden has been wrong about practically every foreign policy thing. Just do the opposite of what Joe Biden believes in. He was on the first Iraq War. He was wrong. He voted for the second Iraq War. I never play, hindsight is 20/20 on these things. I think it's fine, if people were for the second Iraq War, but nobody's supposed to be for the second Iraq War. He's just...
Joe Biden sells foreign policy to the highest bidder, doesn't he?
Probably. Joe Biden, actually, he has been always in the center of the Democratic Party. Not the center of the country, the center of the Democratic Party. Although recently, he's gone way overboard. He's using all this rhetoric trying to put you to sleep. He's senescent. There's all these problems with just the way he talks. But he's got a radical agenda, and I think it's going to bite him right now. The thing that I hope for more than anything else is that all these suburban women voters, and yes, I hate you suburban women voters, you goddamn. So here's the thing. No, because Trump actually did better in the inner city. That's interesting. The so-called racist Trump actually improved in the inner city. But the suburban women I am not Donald Trump. Okay. I want your daughters, to be on soccer teams. And some transgender with... Well, of course, I don't look the part. Knocks your daughter over, and then you have her, run off and be in, Miss preteen pageants after that, because that's part of his radical agenda. Yeah,
they're actually going to let preoperative transgender women run in the Olympics. And come on, preoperative. Okay, those aren't races; those are drag races. Come on.
You're not supposed to be funnier than I am.
I think that you should not be allowed to put your feet in the starting blocks until you're ready to face the chopping block.
Muhammad Ali as well with me. That's fantastic. Anyway. What's your favorite karaoke song? Your go-to karaoke song? That's the thing that I want to ask, because Chris, our producer, wanted me to have like 5 questions to ask people, like I'm Craig Kilborn, and I said, how about one? Okay, so I want to ask Joan Esposito what her go-to karaoke song is. Do you have a go-to karaoke song?
Anything by Neil Diamond.
Well, that's cheating, because everybody sings Sweet Caroline.
You know what his favorite newspaper is? USA Today.
Okay. All right.
I don't really do karaoke. I think that there's probably a special small circle of hell for the guy who invented karaoke.
See, I love it. I just love it.
I think that guy's going to spend eternity surrounded by bachelorettes singing "Girls Just Want to Have Fun."
See, everybody wants to be a rock and roll star, and that's my. I definitely would have wanted to be. The problem is that people, when they do karaoke, they kind of like pretend like they don't give it their all. Sure. And you've got to lay it. When I do my go-to song, which is Alanis Morissette's "You Ought to Know," and I practically faint halfway through it because it's so long, and I can't actually hit any of the notes, but I do the Rex Harrison talk-sing method of it, like in My Fair Lady. You want to know, and it's
I can't hit any of the notes either.
Right.
Singing for me is like being naked. It's more fun for me than anyone that has to watch it.
But stand-up comedy is fine.
Yeah,
stand-up comedy is fine, but singing...
That's no problem.
All right. Anyway, that's going to be our go-to question that we're going to ask all our guests from here to the time this wood rots. And that's pure
until the
polyethylene.
Sure.
Yeah. Very, very nice. I do object to the mention of Butler National in the Open because I have played there, and I used to be the guest of the president of Butler all the time.
Sure.
And there was a controversy over having women there. And they wanted to host a U.S. Open, and they weren't allowed to. And I told him, if you ever allow women in here to get a U.S. Open, I am never going to be your free guest here again. So that's the kind of threats that I can. So coming up, we have got Joan Esposito. Quick, who is she? I mean, she's on WCPT. What's that? It's on 8:20 a.m. Isn't that the warmth and tenderness of the world's most beautiful music? 76 trombones played by the 101 strings.
I have no idea. This is a podcast. Who listens to the radio anymore?
Exactly. This is TV, podcast, everything else. Okay, do we have to send out music and everything like that? Okay, we do. So it's Bruce and Tim Bagel was your name in grade school. Slagle, right here on We Got Wood.
This is an Eyewitness News Brief brought to you by Commodore and the Chicago Sun-Times. Now here's Joan Esposito.
Good evening. Tonight, Bensenville police are searching for 18 bottles of poison. The deadly liquid Euthanasia D was stolen from a Bensenville animal hospital late last night. And tonight, the owner of a Marengo, Illinois slaughterhouse is denying that he butchered and sold diseased cattle, as was charged by the Illinois agricultural officials who yesterday closed his plant. Now this.
Become great at Pac-Man and you could be the envy of the neighborhood. Become great at the Commodore VIC.
Hi, this is Bruce Wolf and Tim Slagle in our great podcast, and we welcome Joan Esposito. Joan, before we get to anything, what happened with those Bensenville, contraband or whatever it was?
Bruce, I don't know if you knew this when you picked that. I got sued over that.
Really?
There was a huge lawsuit that Channel 7 was a part of. Because they said we defamed them, and it was my first time ever being sued. And
How many times were you
down
sued,
with the
Joan?
ABC lawyers, and I had rewritten the copy, thank God, because I had written allegedly, and he said, or police said allegedly, and this, and they looked at it and they said, you're fine. But no, that company, that meat packing plant wanted to take me to court.
Oh, wow. That's great that we had that. We had that one.
Who knew?
Did you pick that one out?
That's two stories, though. There's also the poison story, right? Or is that the same story?
No, the poison story was different. They did not sue me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay. So 1 for 2 isn't bad.
Did they ever find the poison?
Gosh, I should go back. What was that, 80
really
years
important.
ago? I'll try to dig into those records.
How many other times have you been sued? You said it was the first time you were sued. How many times have you been sued?
I was sued also as I did an investigation with Channel 5 when I was there about a doctor who was doing unnecessary surgeries and was wildly overcharging his patients, and he sued me as well.
Okay, and did you prevail on that one as well?
Yes, we did prevail.
Okay, very, very good. Excellent. Well, thank you for joining us today, Joan. We appreciate it. I think I've talked to you once over the last 40 years.
We've been like ships passing in the night.
Totally. And I think that was during my first bout of unemployment in broadcasting. This is my second one. It's been 6 years, but I do have a job as an attorney now. But
I read about that.
Yeah, because
You're a divorce attorney.
No, well, actually, I'm not. So you got your facts wrong again. I think I'm going to sue you.
First time?
Huh? What?
Wouldn't be the first time.
There you go. And you'd win that one, too. But anyway, no, I think in my first bout of unemployment, I called you up because you were running, then maybe you're still doing this, where some media relations kind of thing where you help people. Do you still do that kind of thing? Yeah.
No, I don't.
Oh, you don't? Okay. They don't need any help anymore because everybody's got a podcast.
No, she just doesn't want you.
Exactly. So but that's all we've ever talked. The only other times I've seen you is that I remember for a short time before I became a lawyer, my first tour of duty as a lawyer, I was at WXRT filling in for Marge Halperin, who was on pregnancy leave.
Wow.
And yeah, that's how long ago it was. And it was like 1982. And I got to go to City Hall a number of times. And I was in the City Hall press room. You know, guys like Harry Gold and Bob Davis and all these guys. And in walks Joan Esposito, okay? And everybody's quiet. All of a sudden.
Oh, yeah,
and it's like, because she's so strikingly beautiful, it was unbelievable. Also, there was contempt because it's like, oh, it's a strikingly beautiful TV chick who gets to, so it was.
And wins all her lawsuits.
Exactly. It was really terrible.
Careful.
The other time I saw you was at Poplar Creek, I think it was. It was Jonathan Brandt, Johnny B in the Leisure Suits, and Steve and Gary and Teenage Radiation, and they were going to introduce me as Chet Chit Chat, and I got introduced in front of 25,000 people at Poplar Creek, and of course I insulted the crowd by saying, hey, it's great to be here at Poplar Creek, the Ravinia for the proletariat. They didn't care. They were screaming. But anyway, you were backstage, and my jaw dropped again, and it was Joan Esposito. So then the other time was at an Emmy Awards where I didn't win. The best thing is to win and not be there, which has happened to me. But I wasn't there, and you got up and you lectured all the bosses at the news stations, and I was thinking, what the chutzpah? Excuse me, I just spit into this. Of this woman speaking that way, but you would speak your mind, Joan.
Well, yeah, sometimes I try not to, most of the time, Bruce, I try to just be quiet and polite. I try to channel my inner Linda Yu, but Joan Esposito keeps breaking to the surface.
Is that an Asian slight?
No, she's just the sweetest, kindest human being. Unless you've known her for 20 years, you can't even tell when she's angry.
Oh, well.
It's so
because
subtle.
she's an inscrutable Asian, is what you're trying to say, right?
No,
I'm trying to get you in trouble.
I'm saying that she is so much nicer than anybody else I know.
I had a couple of experiences because I worked at WLS Radio for a while, just a few years ago, and I was in the same building as everybody from Channel 7, and I'd bump into her on occasion. And I saw her as she was just about to get onto the elevator, and I said, Linda, are you going to do this? And she gets onto the elevator, and the doors are still open. Are you going to do this until you're 80? And she goes, I am 80, and the door is shut. So that's our Linda Yu. So, all right, we got to turn this political and get into a big fight, Joan. So, is there bias in the local Chicago media? I believe, of course, there is, and it's all biased in your favor because we're all progressives, except me. I'm the Antichrist.
When you talk about local media, I think one problem with all media is that the lines have gotten blurred. I mean, Bruce, like take a look at a newspaper. You've got your columnists, you've got your editorial board, and that there's supposed to be a wall, and then there's the regular news reporting. And I remember when I first was at Channel 7, I don't know if you remember back when Dennis Swanson hired a bunch of people as commentators, and we would throw to Jory Luloff, and she would tell us what she thought about something. I think that those lines, not so much at the local level, because I think locally people are still working really hard at separating, but certainly at the national level, it's gotten very blurry. When is it opinion? When is it point of view? When is somebody speaking from their personal experience? And when are they just giving you the who, what, where, when, and why? I actually think local media, whether you're talking about radio or television or newspaper, I think local media are doing a far better job at separating out just the facts of a story from the commentary on the story than the national media is doing right now. What do you think?
I don't watch local media. I don't really care about it. No, I'm a national guy. I read National Review online, and that's about it. I don't want to watch the local TV news because I'm not on it. So I resent them, and I don't want to have any. Do you watch it at all?
I understand that. I once auditioned. You remember that movie Contagion that shot in the Chicago area? I auditioned to be one of the reporters that they hired, and they didn't hire me. And by God, I've never watched that movie, and I never will.
Oh, there you go. And they took Floyd Kelber instead. I remember I have problems with things like, I don't know how Channel 5 ever had Carol Marin as its political editor and allowed her to write a radical lefty column for the Sun-Times every week. Could I have been the political editor of Channel 5? Well, of course, I had no political cred at the time. I was just a sportscaster. But assuming that I did have the political cred, they wouldn't allow that. They will allow somebody like Carol to do that because this is a left Democratic kind of town, and you don't even see the bias. What do you say to that?
I know, all I can tell you is that when I worked at 7 and when I worked at 5, that they were very careful and wanted to make sure that everything was as fair and balanced as could possibly be. I mean, I really think I can't speak, Bruce. I've been out of the local television scene for 20 years now.
Let me ask you a question. Were you at? Oh, now you make him feel like a youngster, and I've only been out for 8 years. Last thing I did was give Cheryl Scott a ride home. Oh yeah. So, were you at Channel 5 in 1993 or 92?
I believe I was, yes.
Okay, are you aware? See, Mark Giangreco we'll talk about in the next segment. Mark Giangreco would drop his pants and show his shorts to Carol Marin.
I never saw that. Why didn't he do that with me?
You just didn't rate. So, So I would have said to Carol, do you realize that our star reporter, Paul Hogan, has been accused by the New Republic of spiking a story so that about Carol Moseley Braun's Medicaid fraud so that he could ensure that she be elected the first black female senator to the United States Senate. It was in the New Republic. And she would look at me with her jaw dropping and say, what are you talking about? And then I'd say, well, you're just a combative ditz who doesn't understand what's going on in the world. That accusation was actually made by the New Republic against Paul Hogan, and nobody even knows about it. That's the thing that really bothers me. I'm not saying even the allegations were true, but that allegation was made, and people were oblivious to it. Ron Majors was oblivious to it. Carol Marin was oblivious because that's the kind of bubble that everybody lives in, and it frustrates me a lot. Gonna cry.
Well, I don't know what to tell you. I knew Paul Hogan a little bit, and he seemed pretty much like a straight arrow to me. But I'm curious about that because the New Republic is very prestigious. It's a big name, and had they made an accusation like that, I find it hard to believe that nobody knew about it.
Ron Majors was like Ron Hunter on that one. And Ron's a very smart guy. He's probably the best news anchor in the history of Chicago TV. So anyway, at least you didn't tell me to shut up like Carol Marin did. She went at one point. She said,
hey,
"The man is dead."
Young.
Huh?
The night is young.
Exactly. We got one more segment. Wait till we talk about Giangreco. Come on, was I really a better sportscaster than Giangreco? Come on. Wasn't it?
Well,
right.
He's
sure.
Italian, yeah. I'm Italian.
Exactly.
We stick together. It's blood. It's blood.
I totally get that. All right, we're going to come back because I think the Giangreco situation with Cheryl Burton is illustrative of a major cultural phenomenon. And it'll be interesting to see how a progressive talk radio show host reacts to that one when we come back on the Bruce Wolf and Tim Slagle knockout. Ow, that hurt.
From the NBC Tower, this is Channel 5 News with Warner Saunders and Joan Esposito, John Coleman with weather, and Mark Giangreco with sports. The Channel 5 News at 4.
Good afternoon, I'm Joan Esposito.
And I'm Warner Saunders.
And I'm not. So, hi. Joan Esposito joins us, Bruce Wolf and Tim Slagle. We need a sports guy, though. Warner did sports. I actually got to work with Joan. Thank you for joining us here today. Facts matter, according to Over Your Shoulder. And Yeah, so this Mark Giangreco thing happened with Cheryl Burton. Mark gets fired. He's only been in the business for 40 years. He gets fired because he made this comment, a joke at the end of a newscast that he, in an imaginary TV show on the Do-It-Yourself DIY network, he would have Cheryl Burton play the combative and ditzy interior decorator or something like that. She took umbrage, and she got him fired. And this is the Walt Disney Company, which, has a trigger warning on Jim Crow, the crow in Dumbo, and apparently Mark Giangreco is in the same thing as.
Well, I think they also hold the copyright to Home Improvement, so maybe.
There you go.
That's what it was.
Now that was the sub rosa reason. So, Joan, you got involved in this. I saw a comment in Robert Feeder in which you said, I don't know what she's getting upset about, the Cheryl Burton, that is. Mark, when I was on the air with him, would make fun of my big butt. And first of all, before you say anything, Joan, would you kindly stand up and turn around?
No, because it went away when I got old.
Really?
Now, if I stood up and turned around, all you would see is sadness.
That's a terrible.
I had a beautiful butt, and only I had it when they weren't cool.
Right, exactly. Oh, there you go. So, but I mean, the larger point, and don't try to be funny about this because I want to nail you on this real bad, and I'm not going to, I don't think. But you're siding with Mark. You had him on your show yesterday. I know somebody who actually listened yesterday, and you called him Marky and all that. So you're buddy with him. It's the whole Italian thing, the Italian Channel 5 mafia. And what about your sister in broadcasting, Cheryl Burton, who claims that Mark Giangreco is a racist and a sexist? And you're on a progressive radio station. You should believe that.
Hang on. One slight correction. When you set up this segment, you said that Cheryl Burton got him fired. Cheryl Burton didn't like something he said on the air, and she complained to management. But I do not believe in any way, shape, or form she knew how that was going to unspool.
How do you know that?
It was not.
How do you know that?
I
sources.
believe that from what I'm not saying that I have all the insider knowledge, but I believe that matter, these days with all the crap that's happened at CBS and all of the really horrible allegations that have surfaced there and at Fox, I think networks have become hypersensitive and they don't want anything that's going to blow up in their face. And I think that the suits in New York took that away from local, and they were like, this is no longer your issue. We're dealing with it at the network level, and we've decided that all of these things are going to be dealt with a certain way.
And then it was hysteria. There was hysteria on the part of an total overreaction, and you know who's responsible for that? You, Joan Esposito, and your WCPT commie station. I'm done with you. As a matter of fact, I want 820 turned back to the world's most beautiful music. Ralph Roland here. Yeah, I want to hear 76 trombones played by the 101 strings. I believe in you, Percy Faith. Go ahead.
It's hard to find the middle ground because, as you know, Bruce, and as Mark knows, and as I know, something that we all might think is hilarious, and we say, and we're expecting, hilarity to ensue. Not everybody has our sense of humor. Something that you say that I could think is hilarious, somebody else might say, well, that Bruce Wolf, he's such a jerk. People are really different, and it's really difficult to satisfy everybody. But I will tell you, as a woman who spent a lot of years in the business, you have no idea the things that bosses have said to me and have...
Like, don't lose that butt. Don't lose that butt, Joan. No, I mean, it's serious. I mean, because you were in the era where, you're walking across the City Hall newsroom, the press room, and all the eyes are on you with contempt.
I don't know where the pendulum is going to go when it's finally
the pendulous ones go,
stops.
Yeah.
But, sometimes there's not enough reaction to stuff, and sometimes there's too much reaction to stuff. And that's the world we live in. I personally, when Mark Giangreco used to make fun of me, he used to make fun of Carol, but one thing that I knew about him was he had a great heart. I knew he was trying to be funny. Did it always land? No, but I thought he was funny. My sensibilities weren't offended. But if he had ever offended me, all I know I would have had to do is say to him off the air, that really hurt. And he would have died 1,000 deaths.
Sure.
He didn't want to hurt anybody. I mean, I don't think when you're being funny, you don't want to hurt anybody. I don't want to hurt anybody. Do we sometimes do that? Right. Maybe we do.
Because people have you filibustered too long, and the filibuster is going to be overrun or taken down by you Democrats. So,
what I'm
so
saying
you can't
is
filibuster anymore.
It's gone too far.
All right.
And I'm saying that as a man, you don't know how bad it was. And if it's gone too far, I would rather live with that than live with the way it was before.
So you'd rather live with Mark Giangreco being unjustly dismissed after 40 years of service to the Chicago
Mark
community.
Giangreco. Was he ever going to go out any other way, Bruce?
Oh, sure he was. I mean, he was going to hold. I played golf with Mark.
He was not going to just say, I think I'm going to retire.
What do you mean? He was old news like 20 years ago. He should have quit 20 years ago. But here's the thing. 3 years ago, he gets suspended for a tweet in which he called Trump voters simpletons. And he got suspended for that. Now he gets fired because he sounds like a Trump voter. There are 74 million Trump voters out there. A couple of them attacked the Capitol. I understand that. But there's 74 million Trump voters who feel like they've been victimized by black women, like Cheryl Burton. Now, you're saying she didn't hope that it went that far. But
I think she's trying to prevent another lawsuit, actually.
I don't think there's any world in which Cheryl Burton wanted Mark Giangreco to get fired over that. I really don't.
Well, who did she complain to? I heard that she. So, speaking of just scurrilous rumors, I mean, because we're on a podcast, this isn't even real wood. I heard that she went straight to L.A. You say New York, I say L.A. And she went above her fungible bosses at Channel 7. And so she set the whole thing in motion. Now you're telling me you hear something else she didn't want it actually to happen.
I'm saying I don't think that was her goal. I don't think that she, you're right. Mark has been somebody who's been suspended periodically throughout his whole career. I think he even once said if he doesn't get suspended every so often, he's not pushing the envelope.
He pushed it for a TV sportscaster.
Because, come on, this is like cutting off your nose to spite your face. He is the single most popular talent in the entire market. I mean, you know that. I know that.
What will New Year's Eve be without him? Do you know I actually spent a New Year's Eve with Mark Giangreco 30 years before he actually even started doing this. He used to, I was at a New Year's Eve party, like 83 or 84 or 82, I don't remember what it was, and it was in Evanston. A friend of mine lived there, and nobody showed up to this New Year's Eve party because it was snowing. There was a storm that was going to come.
I remember that one.
Of course you do. Yeah. And there was white flakes coming down. Remember?
No. I mean, it was a huge New Year's Eve. It was
okay. Well, there we go.
It was waist-high snow.
So my wife and I are the only nincompoops who actually go to this party. At about 10 minutes to midnight, it's like a Saturday night, this little Italian sports car is trying to make its way through the snow and get into his driveway, and it's Mark Giangreco because he was the next door neighbor of this guy. So, and I'm not a big guy or anything like that, and my friend wasn't big either, but it was a little Italian sports car. So we were able to push Mark Giangreco, and I introduced myself to Mark, and he said he had heard of me. I guess I was on the loop at the time or something like that. And that's how, so I spent New Year's Eve with Mark Giangreco. So I like Mark, but I think he's been hoisted by his own petard because, you can't start accusing Trump voters of being the very thing that you are, and he's now a victim of the whole thing, Joan. And I don't see how you, as a progressive radio show host who believes in identity politics, all of a sudden are making an exception for the Italian mafia.
So now, wait a minute. Before you wanted me to trash Cheryl, now you've switched and you want me to trash Mark? I'm
an attorney. I want you to trash.
Tell me. I'll do whatever you want.
I want you to
tell me who to trash.
I want you to trash Mark. I want you to trash Cheryl. I want you to trash Carol Marin, the late Paul. All right, we'll leave him. He's exempt. Paul Hogan. He's not here anymore. He's not here to defend himself. Neither is anybody else. All right, this is our go-to question, Joan.
Sweetie.
Huh?
Here.
Oh, there you go.
I'm with you.
What's your go-to karaoke song, Joan? It's our one question that we ask all our guests. When you sing karaoke.
I thought you were going to ask me if I were going to name a horse for the Kentucky Derby. What would the horse name be? That was what I was prepared for.
Oh, my goodness.
Karaoke song, something easy to sing that is not real high, not real low.
Okay, well, go ahead and do it. Give us a few bars of it right now, a cappella. Go ahead.
Pardon me?
Give us a few bars of your favorite karaoke song, a cappella. Go ahead.
I've never sung karaoke in my life.
Well, there's always a first time. This is your maiden voyage.
I would recommend Tequila.
There you go. Joan, come on. We've got like 20 seconds here. Go and sing a song for us.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine.
Oh, yeah. Oh, don't let me stop you. Don't let me stop you. Keep going. Come on, Tim. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Go ahead, Joan.
No, I did that.
Oh,
that's as good as it gets.
I think I just got a hernia. So, Joan, thank you so much for joining us today. And you've, parried every one of my riposts, or riposted every one of my parries. And so you're very difficult. I owe you one. So if you ever need a sports guy for WCPT, I don't pay attention to the sports anymore. But we would love to have you on to do sports. The only problem is WCPT probably wouldn't pay you enough to bring you out. That's what they all say.
Yeah, it's progressive. All they're going to cover is cricket and soccer.
There we go. Of course, the commies. Thank you, Joan. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bruce Wolf and Tim Slagle back here on the broadcast. Thank you, Biff, our staff announcer. I throw my voice.
That's pretty good.
Do you remember Cliff Mercer, the staff announcer who had the lisp for WGN? They had a staff announcer who had a lisp, and his name was Cliff Mercer. And Gary Meyer used to do this Cliff imitation. I did an imitation of Cliff, of his imitation. But the real Cliff Mercer would go, and now it's time for Make Room for Daddy, brought to you by Salerno Butter Cookies. So, I thought I'd do it.
I always liked Tom Brokaw's little inflection. Somehow I think that's why Bush invaded Fallujah. It was just because he wanted to hear Brokaw say, "Well, Fallujah."
We'll get that Brokaw. We'll get him bad. Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, right. People with speech impediments having great broadcasting careers.
Yeah, used to be they could just work cartoons, but now
there you go.
Broadcasting careers.
So let's turn to the Sportlight Spotlight. I love how the major leagues got caught out on a limb. They moved their All-Star game to Denver. I think the Oscars were held in Denver, too, if I'm not mistaken, because nobody saw it and nobody cared about it. But they moved the All-Star game to Denver, and now everybody else is like running away from Major League Baseball. You have Stacey Abrams, this radical who thinks the election was stolen from her in Georgia, and it wasn't. She was originally behind all the boycott, but then she realized this is going to affect Georgians. So she actually had USA Today, talk about a corrupt media, USA Today redid an op-ed that she did to make it look like she wasn't in favor of the boycott when she actually was.
Even though she contacted
them. She contacted
the owners.
Them. Right. And so USA Today is corrupt. Stacey Abrams is corrupt. Major League Baseball can go to hell. Are you going to watch the All-Star game this year?
Yeah, I don't like baseball.
Oh, so you never watch it anyway. Yeah. No. I mean, I love it. They've gone down to 7 innings now. I mean, it's great.
See, I didn't even know that. Baseball is woke. Is that what it is?
That's what they want to be.
Yeah. That makes no sense because I would always use it for a Saturday afternoon nap.
There we go. But I thought the Cleveland Indians were going to change their name to the Cleveland Baseball Team. It's a transition. They're in the transition. They haven't lost their testicles yet. They're in transition, like the Washington Football Team. Yeah. I love it, like when Jim Nantz occasionally on the CBS broadcast goes, "The Redskins," and then they give him an electric shock because he said the name. But I thought the Indians weren't the Indians going to change their name?
They are changing their name next year.
Oh, to what?
They've got rid of all of the Indian logos and name.
But they didn't transition to call themselves the Cleveland Baseball Team. It's going to be too sudden for me.
They are still pre-op.
I'm going to be in mid-Tomahawk Chop next year. Well, that's Atlanta.
They're going to be the Cleveland Savages.
Exactly. Yeah.
They're going to do something.
So here's the one, making it local. I don't know how the Blackhawks get away with calling themselves the Blackhawks anymore. You get these guys wearing a Native American emblem, okay? And they're somebody's pulling their sweater over their head with the emblem on it, and they're pummeling them. If that doesn't reinforce stereotypes about Native Americans, and yet why are the Blackhawks exempt? I don't get that at all. And the Land O'Lakes Butter Girl?
Are they playing franchise rights? You know what they did to the Land O'Lakes Butter Girl? This is fascinating to me because
she was my first love.
Oh, every kid our age knows what you could do with a Land O'Lakes butter box.
Right.
If you fold it just right.
This is over the air UHF television. You can't talk about that. The Land O'Lakes Butter Girl.
I actually heard somebody say that the guy who designed it that loved the mad fold-ins, did that on purpose.
Oh, there you go.
And it was on the box for years, and every grade school boy knew. And what they did was a couple of years back, was about 4 or 5 years ago. They cut her off her knees, so you couldn't do it anymore.
They cut us off at the knees
about the same time it came out on YouTube that showed you how to do it. Exactly. Land O'Lakes finally said, "Oh, we didn't know people were doing that."
I don't even know what to put on my pancakes anymore because there's no longer butter and there's no longer Aunt Jemima syrup anymore. I forgot what they call it now. There was
Pearl Milling Company or something like that.
Yeah, you're really too woke if you know the actual name of it. I was at a wedding a few years ago. One of my nephews was getting married, and this was at the time of Adele's "Rolling in the Deep," which to me sounds like the Hamm's beer commercial. And the Indian chant, "We could have had it from the land of sky." And I start going, woo, singing, dancing around. I embarrassed all my children because "Rolling in the Deep" sounds like, if you listen to it, and we'll dub this in later, "We could have had it all done, the land of sky blue." What you'd think it's an Indian war chant, but you can't say that. You can't do that anymore. And Jimmy Kimmel can't do Karl Malone in blackface anymore. It's terrible. It's terrible, the things that you can't do. But yeah, that's is that our sports look? Yeah, I think we've pretty much covered
sure
the whole Sportlight Spotlight there. What I do love is the NBC Olympics theme is Imagine. John Lennon's Imagine. Well, have you ever listened to unfortunately, we all have listened to the lyrics. Imagine there are no countries. Well, who's going to get the award?
Well, just be one country, just China.
I always thought, remember when we lost the Olympic bid in 2009? Mayor Daley, we'd been trying it for 2 years. Yeah. And Mayor Daley had said before that, why don't they just have it, in one country all the time? And when they finally had it in Beijing in 2008, where they had fake fireworks, they were just computer-generated. George Lucas could have put on the Olympics. It was just all fake. So if you're just going to have a setting, Beijing could hold it every year and say it's Paris. Say it's, it has a nice wood background here we have.
Do it in front of the green screen.
Totally.
Put an Eiffel Tower behind them sometimes. And
yeah, I mean, it's just we've advanced a little bit though. I think I hate to say that I have a little bit of a bleeding heart because, like Mike Royko. Do you remember Royko?
Yeah.
I mean, so he's like the greatest columnist of all time. Somebody sent me a copy of a column that he wrote where he's getting mad at like an Iranian cab driver. And he's calling this guy, in the column, a towel head. I mean, you just can't. So I think we've gotten a little soft, but in some ways it's okay because you really, and that's Royko, the greatest of all time. But
would have been fired today.
Right. But on the other hand, you've got like Lin-Manuel Miranda. And I finally saw Hamilton. Did you see Hamilton?
I about the first 5 minutes.
That's about all you didn't actually pay for the tickets and then leave. You watched it on television.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
I watched it on Disney Plus.
Sure.
But I was not current. I wasn't part. You measure your status by whether you've seen Hamilton. It was at least a couple of years ago. Have you seen Hamilton? How many times? Where were your seats?
Hamilton reminded me of that history teacher that would come into class with a rap he just wrote to try to connect with the kids.
It was actually I actually enjoyed it because I watched it on Disney Plus with closed captions so I could actually get the words because I know people who you've got to listen to the album 15 times and then go say, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna do that." But poor Lin-Manuel Miranda, he's passé Because what is he doing? He's celebrating George Washington. So when of course, we want to destroy the Washington Monument, we want to take down Mount Rushmore, which reminds me of when Tucker Carlson had Tammy Duckworth, Senator Tammy Duckworth, on, and he criticized her, claiming that she wasn't patriotic because she actually was flirting with the notion that we should tear down Mount Rushmore. And, of course, I tweeted at the time, well, I mean, Tucker doesn't have a leg to stand on with her on that one, but which was okay. But she then said, hey, look, Tucker, I mean, I gave up my legs. As a combat warrior, I mean, how can you question my patriotism?
But that's kind of the Tammy Duckworth thing. I'm a U.S. veteran and I lost my leg, so you can't say anything about me.
Right.
It's
Oh, she wanted to breastfeed in the Senate chamber and everything. The great sucking sound wasn't our jobs leaving, Ross Perot. It was your. Come on. We don't want that.
Well, yeah. It's
all in favor.
How many people don't want to be on the teat of the Senate? You know. She only has two. You're going to make everyone else jealous.
You know, my short-term memory is so bad that I don't remember if I asked you earlier what your go-to karaoke song was. Did I? On this air?
Yeah, we did.
Okay, we went over that. Chris, did we ask you what yours was?
Johnny Cash, usually Walk the Line.
Walk the Line. Oh, yeah, you're Neil Diamond. That's right, Walk the Line. Easy stuff, not very, very difficult. All right, so in conclusion, I believe Joe Biden, we've determined today that Joe Biden is a douche.
Sure.
And I mumbled that, okay? And I said it through a screen, and so I think it can go out there, especially if I use my double-screen COVID mask and say, Joe Biden is a douche. I can say that. It's safe.
I think you could base it on having the middle name Robinette, right?
Oh, my goodness. That is his middle name?
You did not know that?
You know, he was the number one graduate of Syracuse Law School with the name Robinette. On the other hand, he was 77th out of 83. I mean, oh my goodness. I mean, how did? But that's what it takes. That's what it takes. And people think he's just, addle-pated, whatever, but he's a nice guy. He's not a nice man.
He's never been a nice guy.
He's not a nice man.
He tried to destroy Clarence Thomas. He destroyed Robert Bork.
He made fun of the guy who got into a car accident which killed his wife and child, Joe Biden's kid, and said the guy had drunk his lunch. It was a total fabrication. Sure. The guy went to his death. Feeling bad, not only that he was involved in an accident, but that Joe Biden was libeling, and they had to beg. I mean, that's as evil as anything that Trump has ever done.
Sure.
Yeah.
It was, from what I understand, it was his wife that she was actually.
Yeah, right. Doesn't matter. The truth doesn't matter, except right here on the Bruce Wolf and Tim Bagel or Slagle Show.